Welcome to Tangled and Truth, the red thread. I'm really excited to have you guys here for a third time to talk about some more, I would say, fringe topics than I have previously covered in my last two videos. Um, Now, today, I really hope you have your tinfoil ready because I plan on taking you behind the curtain and beyond the veil to look at some of the government's best known secrets that everybody knows about. Now, just as a quick recap, in my last episode, I did talk about soul versus the human experience, as well as old Earth, new Earth, and the shifting of frequencies that does happen between those two timelines that we are currently experiencing today. Just to build a little bit on what I gave you guys last time, today we plan on covering hidden truths, as well as NHIs, which is non human intelligences, anti gravitic technology, and the shift that we're currently experiencing today. Now, today I do plan on using quite a few abbreviations, so I'll let you know first off what the beginning and what it is that I'm covering, just because I'm going to trip over myself if I say the full term every single time. The main abbreviations I want you guys to know is UAP, which is also the same for UFO. UAP, I've heard it called two different things. The most common one that I've heard is unidentified anomalous phenomenon, and the second one is unidentified aerial phenomenon. NHIs, which I mentioned earlier, is non-human intelligence, so ETs, aliens, AI, basically otherworldly beings and or technologies that have an intelligence that is not from Earth. Okay. Now, if you have your tinfoil ready, we are going to go ahead and dive right in to all the congressional hearings that have happened since 2022. Now, all of these meetings that I will be talking about, you can find on YouTube. I will be mentioning the date today, as well as the topics and titles of the meeting, so it should be easily searchable. I do plan on linking a few videos today just underneath this video, so that way you guys have your own opportunity to watch these videos, draw your own conclusion, and maybe if you're interested, start doing digging of your own. Now, the first one that we're going to be talking about happened on May 17th of 2022. This was the first modern public hearing on UAPs. It was done with the House Intelligence and Subcommittee. Now, those involved were military and intelligence officials. I do not have any names for that specific meeting. I'm assuming those names were probably redacted and or kept classified. Now, the next one that I'll be talking about will be happening, or it did happen, excuse me, in July 26th of 2023. Now, the title of this meeting was UAP Implications on National Security, and this was done by House Oversight. Oh my gosh, I can't English. And Accountability. Now, some of the big names that I'll be naming in this particular meeting are also tied to other meetings that have happened since this meeting here in 2023. Now, the most popular and prominent name that often gets people hushed the quickest in intelligence communities is David Grusch. He has been by far the most famous whistleblower when it comes to UAPs and alien technology. Ryan Graves was also involved, as well as David Fravor. Now, I apologize. I am going to be reading off my notes today just because I don't want to be giving you guys the wrong information or the wrong names. So if you see me looking down, it's just because I want to make sure I'm reporting this properly. Okay, now where was I? Cool. So then we jump to the meeting that initially caught my attention and to start digging into this kind of material. Happened on November 13th of 2024. The name of this meeting was Unidentified Anomalous Phenomena, Exposing the Truth, and those involved were the House Committee Oversight. Names of whistleblowers that spoke were Tim Gallaudet, who is a retired Rear Admiral, Louis Elizondo, who also wrote a book that you can actually purchase on Amazon, I believe. I think it's called Imminent. Michael Gold also was a speaker, is the same as Michael Schellenberger. Now, we're going to fast forward to this year of September 2025. And the name of this meeting was "The Government Must Be More Transparent About UAPs." And the most notable names from this most recent meeting is going to be Chief Wiggins, George Knapp, Representative Burchett, as well as Jeffrey, I'm sorry, I'm going to totally butcher this last name, Nicoletti, I believe. I also watched this congressional hearing, and at this particular congressional hearing that aired in September, they actually had some astounding footage of a Hellfire missile. And if you have no idea what that is, I encourage you to Google it, look it up, see how fast it travels, and just the sheer size of this missile. They have footage of a drone off the coast of Yemen that had managed to capture on video an orb. I'll be talking a little bit later in this video about what an orb is, as well as different types of UAPs that are starting to become more known with the public. So basically what had happened was an American drone had caught an orb over the ocean and was tracking it. Another drone had fired a Hellfire missile and it bounced off the orb. It almost looked like some plasma had split off from the orb, but the plasma that had split off still was traveling with the original orb, the original UAP. That video footage you can also still find on YouTube, TikTok. You can pretty much Google it and you can find it. And then I guess one thing I forgot to mention from the meeting back in 2024, if you go on Google, this paperwork has been declassified. It is called Immaculate Constellation. I believe Michael Brown, who is also a whistleblower, was one of the ones that helped author that. Now, Immaculate Constellation are just a handful of the different UAPs that we have come in contact with. Their shape, how they used energy. They range all the way from the saucers that we see in Hollywood movies to large triangles to almost jellyfish looking UAPs, I want to say was one of the names of one of them, and it was able to camouflage, and it was only detectable via heat signature, I believe. All right, so I guess now digging into alien technology, I would like to, I guess, kind of talk about different alien archetypes. It feels weird seeing alien species or alien races, so I would rather just say alien archetypes. Now, these archetypes that I'm going to be bringing up are also ones that are connected with some of the UAPs that have been noted in Immaculate Constellation. And these are some of the archetypes that have been associated with specific ones. I will also be talking about the possibility of which ones we may have open contact with first, just based on the aura, the energy, the different parts they play in the universe, as well as some of their familial relation to us as humans here on Earth. Now, the first one I'm going to be talking about are the most human looking aliens, I guess you could say. I've heard many people in the disclosure community talk about Pleiadians from the Pleiades star cluster. Are most likely going to be the first ones that we have contact with. They are also called Nordics. Typically very tall, very fair hair, blue eyes. They are often portrayed as gentle as well as service oriented. They're all about love, peace, harmony, and working with your community to better your environment and better yourself and better your relationship with everything. Now, the next one that I'll be talking about is the one that we've all seen in movies, the ones that are often associated with the flying saucers. The little tiny gray aliens are the ones that I'm talking about, and that's actually what they're called. They're called the grays. Now, there's two distinct grays that I'll be talking about. One is a biological droid. The other one is the actual entity, the grays, the alien themselves. Now, the ones we often hear about abduction lore, about um, fourth kind type of interaction with these aliens are the little gray, about 3 to 4 feet tall, large black eyes. Now, the 3 foot grays are the biological droids. They are not the actual being themselves. They are operated either by the consciousness of an actual gray or they are operated by AI, I believe. Now, the actual grays themselves typically range, I want to say from 7 to 8 feet, is from some of the paperwork that I've been able to find. They look the same. They are gray, hairless, with large black eyes. Now, when it comes to speaking, I have been told a lot of the times that they can speak in linear language, but the easiest way for them to communicate is with telepathy, and I believe that's how it is with all of the alien archetypes and the alien species. Is telepathy is the easiest way to communicate. Now, one thing about the Greys, along with the abduction lore that they've been tied in with, they're also known for looking into DNA as well as hybridization programs. Now, why do I bring up hybridization programs? Bashar talks about the Greys actually being a descendant of humans, but they're from a reality where our world was just completely decimated by nuclear war. And due to the radiation, their bodies became deformed and they lost their ability to reproduce. And because of that, they literally had to burrow a hole through dimensions to a reality where human DNA was viable and they were able to hybridize the gray as well as the human DNA, thus making hybrid beings such as the Essassani, which is what Bashar is. Now, the other thing that I forgot to mention about the Pleiadians is they are also talked about being descendants of us, but they're the descendants on the opposite reality where we have come together, have been in unity, have went up from a basically we've evolved past what our current civilization is. All right, next one is gonna sound a little hokey, and that's fine. This one I'm not super sold on, but I wanted to bring it up because it is a name that is talked about. I want to make sure I bring all information forward. I'm still iffy on it. I still haven't found anything super solid, but I also haven't been digging into this archetype as much as I have the others. And that is the Sasquatch, or the interdimensional earth beings. And I know sounds silly, but it is something that is talked about in the disclosure community. They are, of course, human, hairy like beings, but they are guardians of the earth and they live in the liminal. Now, what is the liminal? The liminal is the space in between realities. Think of it like the membrane in between each reality, and that is where they stay. Now, the next archetype that I'm going to be talking about is a lower vibrational archetype. The ones that I have already mentioned are fifth dimensional, so they are able to see past, present, and future all at once. This next one that I will be talking about is a lower vibrational entity. And this is the one that many conspiracy theories, so much conspiracy lore is surrounded around this archetype. And I'm sure you've heard of it. It's the Reptilians, or the Draconians, is also something that they're called. Now, what are they? They're tall, they're scaled, they're reptile like beings. They feed off power, they feed off control, they feed off manipulation. And if you even just do slight digging, looking, and if you see lizard people, how many people compare celebrities and politicians to lizard people? This is what they're referring to. This is the conspiracy. This is the lore that it is attacked to. Now, in the disclosure community, I've heard stories about how during the Eisenhower administration, I don't believe the president himself was involved with this deal, but I do believe it was a backdoors deal that happened with people involved in his administration, where humans made a deal with draconians to basically hijack free will. And that's why we're living in the current world we're living today. When Eisenhower gave his warning about once people start profiting and making money off of war, there's always going to be war. And I think that was a warning to this backdoors deal that did happen during his administration. And because of that, we deal with so much corruption in the government, the FBI not being honest, the CIA not being honest, multiple different assassinations that have happened over the decades that, in all honesty, I believed of what I was told at first via media, but after looking into it and seeing the lack of evidence, there are many things that I have believed to question if they were being honest at all. Now, when the Eisenhower administration or the people in the administration made a deal with the Draconians, what had happened was it became so chaotic and so dark. Years later, when I don't know if it's years later, I'm going to have to look this up. Excuse me, my history isn't correct with this. But this is where I need to tie in the call. Now, what is the call? In Dolores Cannon's work, she talks about when she had put many clients under quantum healing hypnosis through past lives, thousands upon thousands of her clients said, "We heard the call." When she had asked, "Why did you come to Earth?" "We heard the call." The call that I'm talking about went out after the nuclear bomb had been dropped on Hiroshima, Japan. Now, what do I mean call? The Earth is a living being. It has a soul, and it sent out an SOS to the farthest reaches of the universe, and it was heard. And it was because of these forces, these lower vibrational entities, these beings that profit and feed off of division and hate and fighting and anger. The Earth knew it needed help, and it wasn't going to ask for help in a way that Hollywood has always portrayed it, where alien ships come in, they land on the White House, it's this big dramatic thing. It called for help to change from within. That's where people like me come in, to be those anchors of this new frequency that Earth had called for, so that way we can usher in this new Earth that we are starting to see the division between old and new Earth. Now, I still plan on covering a lot of the conspiracy theories that have happened when it comes to lower vibrational entities, SRA, Ramkoa. Now, what is that I'm talking about? I'm talking about satanic ritual abuse, as well as basically cult abuse. We will not be talking about it today. It's a very deep, very heavy subject. It's not something I recommend you listening to or absorbing if you are not in a place to do that. But it's important to understand our situation as a whole, and to understand the depths of what is happening and all the layers and everything, all the different energies interacting with each other. Now, let's go ahead and switch it a little bit. Let's make this a little bit happier. Now, the last alien archetype that I would like to bring up is the Arcturians. Now, the Arcturians are also a higher vibrational entity. I'm not sure if they're fifth, sixth, or seventh dimension. I would have to look into that, but basically, how they've been described is they have a blue or violet hued skin. They are known for their advanced healing technology as well as consciousness architecture. They are known for guiding starseeds. What are starseeds? Starseeds are the ones who were called when Earth sent out that SOS. That call was meant for starseeds to incarnate here on Earth to help change our society from the inside out, to help usher in this new Earth. Now, starseeds aren't necessarily aliens, I would say. They're more of a mixture of both human as well as interstellar DNA, I'd almost say. Not physical DNA. It's hard to describe what it is, but a lot of starseeds are a fusion of the two, basically. And of course, I can always do a video where I go into more depth in what different types of starseeds are, what their jobs are, for the awakening, for the anchoring of this new frequency, because a lot of them have different strengths that play well off of each other. And I think it would be super fun to go into what those are. And I'm sure a lot of people could identify with, hey, that kind of reminds me of this. Hey, maybe I fit in there. I know I myself definitely identify with the Pleiadian starseeds just based on what charges my personal batteries, as well as helps me feel like I'm acting on my greatest excitement. Now, let's talk about starseeds a little bit more. Now, this goes into the call that I had just mentioned, and these starseeds came in 3 different waves, and they came during different generations. Now, let's go ahead and start with the first wave. The first wave of starseeds came in, I want to say, between the 1940s and the 1960s. Often very sensitive people. They did not and do not like it here. A lot of them tend to have depression, suicidal tendencies. They're not meant for it here. They don't like it. They're absolutely important because we needed somebody to be the trailblazers, and they were the ones to do it. But they had the hardest time compared to the second and third wave when it came to adjusting, when it came to Earth, as well as the density of Earth. Earth, along with being a school, like I had mentioned before, also is a very, very, very dense reality. And something the ETs love and absolutely admire about humans here is us being able to come together and work through things through all of the denseness of this reality. Because if we can do it here, it's more than possible in their realities, on their planets, in their dimensions. Their dimensions aren't as disconnected from source as we are here on Earth, nor are they born forgetting that they're separate from source. Now, for the first wave, their main goal was to anchor the initial frequencies. They weren't meant to build anything, they were just to bring the information, start the trails. Now, the second wave of starseeds came in between the 1970s as well through the 1980s. Now, their main job was to be bridge builders, often low ego people, but very, very, very powerful energetic transmitters. Now, their goal was to spread frequency through presence rather than action. Now, I believe some of the millennials, specifically the ones born between 1990 and 1995, I feel like we kind of are a bridge between second and third wave, just because of our ability to be cycle breakers, to be the ones to say no to certain things, to not be afraid to stand up to it and start something new because they see the flaws in the system. Now, the third wave are the 1990s onward, thus the younger millennials as well as Gen Z. Now, the third wave, they are highly intuitive, highly intuitive. They're very tech savvy. Often, children who can handle the new frequency, they don't struggle like the first wave did. And even though the second wave didn't struggle as hard as the first wave, the third wave is so much more natural for them, because they've already had the path basically dug and then refined by wave two. Now, all three are super incredibly important when it comes to anchoring in the new life and the new frequency into new Earth. But I will say that the third wave are the ones who will be building the new reality that I'm hoping, will be experiencing here or start moving towards that experience in 2027. All right. Now, this next little bit that I'm going to be getting into is basically more receipts, more evidence to hopefully help nudge you into a direction to maybe, like I said earlier, start doing some digging of your own. What I plan on talking about next is UAP technology that some of these alien archetypes have and have been retrieved from crash sites. But also, some of this technology isn't so alien because it was built by humans. Now, the hidden tech that I will be talking about, you can watch the full video where it goes into more detail. It has actual pictures, videos. Highly recommend the podcast, the Y Files. They take super fun conspiracies all the way to serious ones, to ones that are, I would say, tangible and believable and plausible. And they just do a phenomenal job of laying everything out. So everything that I will be speaking about today is available on their video. I believe it's Killer Patents Volume 1. But yeah, so the technology I will be talking about will basically be free energy, 0 point energy technology, as well as anti-gravitic technology. Now, the first one that I'm going to be talking about isn't one super far off or hard to believe, and it's the water car. If you haven't heard of Stanley Meyer, I highly recommend looking it up. His story is super famous. His tech was actually shown on the news, shown in magazines. His invention became so popular it made it to mainstream, but it was a problem. Now, the lower vibrational entities and beings that I had talked about, they don't benefit from free energy. They benefit from us being in a constant war, as well as a constant need for big pharma, for medications. Same with oil, cars. All I'm going to say is electric cars are not going to be the future. I think green energy is a massive scam. I think it is mainly meant to line the pockets of the technocrats as well as the millionaires and billionaires who have invested into green energy. If you look into it, green energy isn't really that great for the environment, especially when it comes to lithium mines, slave labor. Even when it comes to disposing of the materials, they rot in landfills for up to thousands of years, hundreds of years. Anyways, sorry, gonna get on a rant with that. But anyways, so Stanley Meyer, he actually invented the water-powered car. Now, his car was able to actually split hydrogen and oxygen, and it was ran on hydrogen. And a lot of people thought it kind of had to do, what was it? I think it was electrolysis is what it was called. But with electrolysis, you need pure water, you need a lot of it. And that isn't what Stanley Meyer based his technology off of. He actually based it off as, I think it was a water fuel cell injector, I believe. Yes. And you could run it on dirty water, tap water. I want to say he even said you could run it on spit or urine. And, not long after his technology made it to the mainstream news, he was approached by members from the Pentagon, I believe, was out to lunch. His brother was present. And during the meeting, Stanley Meyer had ran out into the road and had told his brother, "They poisoned me," and had died and collapsed. Official notice of death was he had a brain aneurysm. The family did not believe it. Anytime you look into any of these inventors, the media or anything online is going to smear them as liars, as frauds, or crazy. But sometimes when there's labels like that, you might want to do just a little bit more digging into it. Now, the next one that I'm going to be talking about is Charles Pogue. This is going to take us all the way back to the 1930s. Now, this has to do with a carburetor, which is an older part for cars. I don't believe our cars currently use it anymore, but it's important. Now, Charles Pogue, his carburetor actually vaporized gas before it hit the engine. And he was able to get up to 220 miles a gallon from this. Now, all of his technology and all of his research was stopped when his shop was broken into and notes and equipment were stolen. Not long after the Pogue carburetor, the government had actually created the Invention Secrecy Act in 1951. Basically, what that means is the inventor can only sell to the US military, and if they sell to anyone else, they could face imprisonment, and for some people, it was death. The next inventor I would like to talk about is Tom Ogle. He actually had basically done something similar to the Pogue carburetor to his lawnmower, and when he decided to try again and he did it on his car, he had a 1970 Ford Galaxy that ran, I think it was 11 miles to a gallon. But after basically creating his own Pogue carburetor, his car was running 100 plus miles per gallon. Now, the minute he filed for a patent, that's when everything started going downhill. And I'll bring up why filing for a patent becomes problematic. After filing for a patent, the U.S. Air Force was very interested in his invention. But on April 14th of 1978, he was shot by a stranger outside of a bar. He survived. But then on August 18th, 1978, he collapsed at a friend's apartment and died. Now, it was ruled an accidental overdose, but he had no history of drug or alcohol abuse. That same year, the petrodollar became the de facto currency of the world. I don't know, might be linked, might not. You can look into it. All I can say is once the petrodollar became the de facto currency, it made the US government super rich and powerful, and it also made the oil companies really rich. All right, next inventor, Tom Brown. He also created a similar invention, but his also cleaned the air. After filing a patent for his, he was shut down by the EPA. He also received multiple bomb threats. His lab was also vandalized. Everything was stolen, and he lost his life savings. His work had completely stopped, and I believe he died broke. Now, I forgot to mention Stanley Meyer, who also created the hydrogen car. He also had a secondary invention that was in his garage. Now, this is a toroid or a donut-shaped invention. And basically, I think it was able to tap into 0-point energy, I believe. And it was able to create unlimited energy. Now, when Stan Meyer had patented this particular invention, he actually faked the voltages in his patent to keep it from getting stolen or classified. But the issue is once he started experimenting with it more, people started talking about it, it started to draw some attention because it broke the second rule of thermodynamics. It created energy. Now, this actually taught us something. It taught us that empty space isn't really empty, it's full of energy. Now, the person who discovered this was Willis Lamb. This is called the Lamb shift. This is basically where electrons and hydrogen atoms are being disturbed, I believe, by particles blinking in and out of existence. This is also called the ether. This is where zero-point energy is found. This is the base layer of reality. And when you tapped into the zero-point energy, you would be able to create an over unity device, which means you created like an excess of energy. Now, another person that had also tapped into zero-point energy was Thomas More. He was able to create an invention that basically it created 50,000 watts of electricity. That's like insane. But when he did try to patent it, they told him he couldn't. They told him it was impossible due to the rules and of thermodynamics. Not long after he tried to file for a patent and was denied, his lab was robbed. Shocker! His family survived multiple assassination attempts. It actually got to the point where he had to bulletproof his car. In the 1940s, he was actually publicly showing his device could produce 250,000 volts without input. He was attacked the very next day, but survived, only to have his assistant turn on him and destroy everything. He was another inventor who died broke. Now, the next one I'm going to be talking about is going to be introducing us to a new technology, but piggybacking off the zero-point energy that we were already talking about. Now, I am talking about Floyd Sweet, or Sparky, is what he is known as typically. Now, after he retired in the 1980s, he was able to invent the VTA. What is the VTA? It is a vacuum triode amplifier. Now, he wasn't an afternoon or a garage tinkerer. He actually had degrees to basically back up his research. Now, he was able to take a box the size of a deck of cards, and it could harness up to 224,000 watts. Now, this energy was stable, it wasn't transient, and of course, he filed a patent. Not long after he filed a patent, he was approached by a man in a grocery store who had a photo of him and his wife eating dinner from the night before. Now, this photo was taken from inside his house. He had no idea till the day that he died how that picture could have been taken. He was threatened as well as harassed. He finally stopped his research once his lab was broken into and his notes were stolen. Two men actually came to visit him and his wife after that. Not long after they left, he actually collapsed. The wife called 911. EMS actually refused to let her in the ambulance. Not long after, a few minutes later, I believe, she was called and they were told that he died of a heart attack. Now, after Sparky had passed, the FBI did confiscate all of Sparky's equipments and notes. Now, the thing with the VTA, the vacuum triode amplifier, is it was anti-gravitic, anti-gravity technology. And basically what the VTA did is it turned gravity from a pulling to a pushing force, thus levitation. And this is kind of where I'm going to tie it into the alien stuff, because UFOs and UAPs to use zero-point energy. Very, very, very similar to Sparky's VTA. Now, anti-gravitic technology was actually really popular back in the 1950s, and the US Canadian government were actually openly working on it. They actually sourced it to companies like Lockheed Martin. Lockheed Martin, as actually mentioned in to, I believe, to, I know for sure, one of the congressional hearings of a private contractor who goes to crash retrieval sites and reverse engineers alien technology. Now, the next person I'm going to be talking about is a little bit more of a modern person, a little bit more recent. It is Dr. Ning Li, and she actually had a company called AC Gravity where she researched anti-gravitic technology. In 2001, she actually received a grant for $400,000 from the government to continue her anti-gravity research. Not long after receiving the grant, she disappeared. She disappeared for 13 years, only to reappear in 2014, and then she was hit by a car. She suffered from permanent brain damage, and her whereabouts during those 13 years are known, and there's no documentation of it. But many people in the disclosure community highly suggest that the Department of Defense, the DoD, knows full about her whereabouts. Now, like I said earlier, if you do a Google search on these inventors, they're going to tell you that they're crazy, liars, or frauds. That's where discernment, that's where I'm hoping to help you, to give you information to sharpen your discernment, to understand truth from lie, not based on necessarily paperwork, papers, documents. You have to use your heart to also understand, because papers can be faked, documents can be forged. Now, the thing about the patent office, and the reason why a lot of these inventors were actually attacked, harassed, or killed after filing for a patent, was because every major military agency has a representative at the patent office. That's how they know. They're always in the know. Now, the main thing I wanted to get across for this last part of this video is technologies have been suppressed for over 100 years now, and they've been keeping us in a state of complacency, poverty, and pollution. The Federation of American Scientists back in 2010 actually did a study that and I think the exact number is 5,135 inventions were given the secrecy label, and that's in 1 year. Imagine how many it is in 5 years, in 10 years, over decades. How many inventions that could have helped us get free energy, clean energy, anti-gravity technology, healing medications, or not medications, healing technology for ailments over 100 years ago. Now, I don't for this to mean to be all doom and gloom, because there is a silver lining to all of this. The fact that all of this information and these conspiracies are leaking through the cracks and slowly making it to mainstream, I believe, it means disclosure is coming. It, like Louis Elizondo's book, Imminent, disclosure is imminent. I don't know when it will happen. Like I said, I have an idea. It will probably be around 2027, is what everyone keeps talking. It's the year everyone keeps talking about. Now, in the next episode, I want to dive a little bit more into dimensions, energy and frequency, atoms, consciousness, a lot more fringe topics, I would say. They are a little bit heavier, so there will be parts you may or may not want to skip, depending on the information that you're able to find, or the information that I'm able to show you. Now, I said I would cover a little bit of the events happening today in this world. A lot of people who watch my videos, who I know personally, want me to cover a little bit of the events happening today and give a little bit of my metaphysical read on everything that's going on. Kind of like I was saying, I believe we are at a turning point right now. I believe that disclosure is imminent. But I do expect more chaos to happen before then. I do believe people's core beliefs will be shook. Some people are going to be very angry for what has been kept from them. Um, but just know it's all good. It genuinely is for the best, the discoveries that we are going to be making. Now, there are going to be a couple things I'm going to be keeping an eye on over the next couple of days. I've been keeping a close eye on the Sumund Flotilla, which is a group of, I believe, 50 boats who are delivering aid to Gaza, and they are trying to break the Navy blockade from Israel. They have now an escort ship from Spain. Italy has withdrawn from what I believe, and now they just have a boat there in case for rescue in case anything happens. Greece offered them safe passage through their waters. I believe China has also volunteered, as well as there's another country that I believe was willing to put 20,000 boots on the ground. This is a climax or a peaking point. The Middle East is often a big metaphorical symbol for what's actually happening inside metaphysically for all of us, all the tension, all the fighting. So I do plan on keeping an eye on that, because some of the people in charge of running the awful genocide that is happening in Gaza, I know for a fact are members of those lower vibrational energies, and this is what they feed off of. This is how they get their power. A couple other things just to keep an eye on. I do expect things to get a little bit crazier here in the States. There has been a little bit of diffusion of the right versus the left, I've noticed, with other stories coming through. I will say, though, I am a little bit concerned about the Charlie Kirk assassination. I 100% believe that the FBI is covering up and were a part of or know of who and how many people were involved in the assassination of Charlie Kirk. Love him or hate him. I didn't agree with a lot of the things he said, but he was a symbol of free speech. And he was getting dangerously close to saying things that the lower vibrational entities did not want known by the collective. And now, even though they tried to silence him, they have made so many other people so loud, which I don't think they really were intending, because now more people are angry, more people are talking. Yeah, I guess that kind of wraps everything up for today. I highly encourage, if you have any questions, if there's any topics you would like me to talk about, please let me know. I do plan on starting a TikTok at some point where I can drop shorts, a little bit smaller tidbits of information, a little bit more digestible. I know my video, especially today, is really long. It's almost 50 minutes now. I know everyone doesn't have time for that, and the information that I am giving you is heavily layered, and there's a lot to it. But I will leave it at that for today. I won't overwhelm you guys with any more information. And I just wanted to let you all know, you're not crazy. You're just early. I'll see you next time.